Ever wonder how a single moment can shatter years of silence? This is the story of a boy who never spoke and a teacher who never listened, until one fateful afternoon when music changed everything between them. What happens when a teacher's attempt at humiliation transforms into a moment of profound revelation? Stay with me to witness how one boy's hidden talent forever altered the dynamic of an entire classroom and taught a powerful lesson about judgment that no one would ever forget. In the aging corridors of Westfield Academy, Mr. Daniel Harrison had maintained his reputation as the strictest music teacher for nearly 2 decades. At 47, his once passionate eyes had hardened into calculating assessment machines, categorizing students as either worthy of his attention or not. 12 years of teaching the same curriculum had worn away his enthusiasm, leaving behind only rigid expectations and unforgiving standards. Among his current students was Noah Chen, a quiet 16-year-old who always occupied the same corner seat in the back row. Noah rarely participated, kept his head down during discussions, and vanished the moment class ended. Other students noticed how Mr. Harrison's gaze seemed to slide past Noah as if he were invisible, never calling on him when his hand hesitantly rose, moving quickly past his correct answers, but lingering uncomfortably long on his rare mistakes. "He acts like you don't exist," whispered James, the boisterous boy who sat beside Noah during 5th period. "It's like you have some kind of teacher-repelling superpower." Noah would only shrug and return to his notebook, which was filled not with music notes, as everyone assumed, but with intricate compositions that no one, especially not Mr. Harrison, had ever seen. On a particularly dreary Tuesday, Mr. Harrison was discussing the technical brilliance required for classical piano when James, perhaps tired of the teacher's dismissive tone, broke protocol. "Noah could probably play that," he announced to the class, causing 23 heads to turn toward the corner. Noah froze, pencil suspended above his notebook, eyes widening with silent panic. Mr. Harrison's eyebrows rose. "Is that so?" For the first time all semester, his full attention landed on Noah, though not with curiosity, but with something more calculating. "I wasn't aware you played, Mr. Chen." Noah swallowed hard. "A little," he admitted quietly. "A little," Mr. Harrison repeated, the corner of his mouth twitching. "Well, that's quite different from the technical mastery we've been discussing." He glanced at the grand piano that sat untouched at the front of the classroom, an antique instrument donated years ago that was primarily used as a demonstration piece. "Perhaps you'd care to demonstrate your abilities?" The invitation hung in the air, delivered with such thinly veiled skepticism that several students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Noah hesitated, his eyes moving between the teacher and the piano. "Unless, of course, you'd prefer not to," Mr. Harrison added, already turning away as if the matter was settled before it began. "I'll play," Noah said, his voice barely audible. The classroom fell silent as Noah made his way to the piano, aware of every eye following his movement, every suppressed snicker, every expectant look. Mr. Harrison leaned against his desk, arms crossed over his chest, wearing an expression that seemed to anticipate failure. "Whenever you're ready," he said, with an exaggerated wave of his hand. "Show us this talent James believes you possess." Noah sat at the bench, taking a moment to adjust its height. His hands hovered over the yellowed keys of the neglected instrument. He pressed a single key, testing its resistance and tone. The piano was out of tune, not severely but noticeably to a trained ear. From the back of the room, someone sniggered. Another whispered something that made nearby students laugh quietly. Noah closed his eyes for a moment. He wasn't playing for them. He wasn't even playing to prove Mr. Harrison wrong. In that moment, he was playing for someone who wasn't in the room, his grandfather, who had taught him every day until his passing 3 years ago. The same grandfather whose piano Noah practiced on nightly after completing his homework, the only place he truly felt he could express himself. When Noah's fingers finally touched the keys, the transformation was immediate and absolute. The opening notes of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 filled the classroom, not tentatively or apologetically, but with commanding precision. Noah's hands moved with practiced confidence, building the piece from its somber beginning into its emotional complexity. His left hand provided the steady, rhythmic foundation, while his right danced across the keys with astonishing speed and articulation. The classroom atmosphere shifted instantly. Whispers ceased. Snickers died in throats. Even the perpetually bored students in the back row leaned forward in their seats. As the piece progressed, Noah's body swayed slightly with the music, completely immersed in the composition. His face, usually guarded and expressionless, revealed the passion that had always lived beneath the surface. His fingers struck the keys with increasing intensity, drawing sounds from the old piano that no one, including Mr. Harrison, had heard before. James sat with his mouth slightly open, though his expression wasn't one of surprise. It was vindication. He'd known somehow. Perhaps Noah had let something slip, or perhaps James had simply seen what others had chosen to ignore. But the most dramatic transformation was visible on Mr. Harrison's face. The smug expectation of failure had vanished, replaced by a complex mixture of disbelief, embarrassment, and something that looked remarkably like shame. His crossed arms had fallen to his sides, and he gripped the edge of his desk as if needing physical support. When Noah reached the crescendo, his fingers moved with such speed and precision that several students gasped audibly. The music filled every corner of the room, resonating off the walls, wrapping around them all, connecting them in a moment of unexpected beauty. Then, as masterfully as he had built the intensity, Noah brought the piece to its conclusion, the final notes hanging in the air, before fading into a silence more profound than any the classroom had ever known. For several seconds, no one moved, no one spoke. It was as if they collectively needed time to process what they had just witnessed. Then, from the middle of the room, a single student began to clap. Others joined immediately, and within seconds, the entire class erupted in thunderous applause. Several students stood, including James, who let out a whoop of celebration. Even the typically disengaged students in the back were nodding with newfound respect. Noah remained seated at the piano, hands resting in his lap, breathing deeply. He wasn't smiling, wasn't seeking approval. He simply allowed the moment to exist, letting everyone sit with what had just happened. Only Mr. Harrison remained motionless, his expression unreadable as the applause continued around him. When the noise finally subsided, he cleared his throat. "Well," he said, his voice unusually subdued, "that was unexpected." The students looked between him and Noah, waiting for more. Some were still buzzing with excitement, but the energy in the room had shifted from mere entertainment to something more substantial. "Where did you learn to play like that, Mr. Harrison asked, a slight tremor in his typically authoritative voice. Noah met his gaze directly. "My grandfather taught me, before he died." Something flickered across Mr. Harrison's face, recognition perhaps, or regret, but it was gone before it could be named. "I see," he said simply, the words falling flat in the emotionally charged room. Mr. Harrison tapped his fingers against the desk, the only sound in the otherwise silent classroom. Then he turned to the rest of the students as if attempting to escape whatever thoughts were crossing his mind. "All right, let's return to our lesson." But nobody moved. The students remained transfixed, the moment still hovering between them. Emily Peterson, a usually quiet girl in the front row, raised her hand. "Is that it?" she asked, her voice laced with disbelief. Mr. Harrison's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" Emily straightened in her seat. "Noah just played like a professional, and you're just going to continue like nothing happened," several students murmured in agreement. The tension in the room thickened. "This is a classroom, not a concert hall," Mr. Harrison replied, but his usual authority seemed diminished. Noah took a deep breath, centering himself. "You didn't think I could play, did you?" he asked, his voice quiet but steady. Mr. Harrison's attention snapped to him, sharp and assessing. He didn't answer immediately. "That's why you called me up here," Noah continued, maintaining eye contact. "You thought I would embarrass myself." Whispers spread through the classroom. Mr. Harrison exhaled slowly. "I simply gave you an opportunity to share your talent with the class." Noah tilted his head slightly. "No, you didn't." His voice remained calm, measured. "You thought I would fail." More whispers. Mr. Harrison's fingers tightened against the edge of his desk. "That's enough, Noah." But Noah wasn't finished. "You wouldn't have asked James," he continued, glancing at his friend, "or Emily, or Michael, but you asked me." His gaze returned to Mr. Harrison. "Why?" The classroom held its collective breath. Mr. Harrison's mouth tightened. "You're out of line." "I don't think I am." His eyes darkened, his posture stiffened. "Sit down." For the first time all year, Noah didn't immediately do as instructed. He looked around the room, at his classmates, at those who had ignored him before, at those who had underestimated him, at those who had snickered when his name was called. Then he returned to his seat. The silence felt heavier now, charged, and Mr. Harrison, for all his habitual control, appeared distinctly unsettled. But this time, he wasn't the one commanding the room. Noah walked back to his desk slowly, feeling the weight of each step. His heart no longer raced. He wasn't nervous anymore. If anything, a strange sense of calm had settled over him. He sank into his chair, still feeling the stares of everyone around him. James gave him a slow nod, one that needed no words. Emily was still watching Mr. Harrison, arms crossed, as if waiting for something more. But Mr. Harrison had shut down. He opened his lesson plan, eyes fixed on the page, as if he could pretend nothing had happened. "Let's continue." The room didn't return to normal as quickly as he might have hoped. The energy remained charged. People were still exchanging glances. It wasn't just about the music anymore. Michael leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "It's kind of weird how you don't want to talk about it." Mr. Harrison's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" Michael shrugged. "You made such a big deal about him playing, but now you're acting like it never happened." Several murmurs of agreement rippled through the classroom. Mr. Harrison's grip on his book tightened. "That's enough." But Noah had already seen it, the hesitation, the discomfort, and so had everyone else. For the remainder of the class, Mr. Harrison's usual authority felt thinner, like a glass window that had just been cracked. He still controlled the lesson, but the students weren't as engaged. The familiar rhythm had been disrupted. When the bell finally rang, chairs scraped against the floor as students gathered their things, murmuring to each other as they filed out. Noah slung his bag over his shoulder and headed for the door. But just before he left, Mr. Harrison called his name. "Noah!" He turned back. For a second, the teacher looked as if he might say something meaningful, something genuine. Instead, his expression hardened. "I hope you understand this is still my classroom." Noah studied him for a moment. Then, with the same calm, steady voice he had used before, he said, "I know." A beat of silence passed between them. Then he left. In the hallway, James caught up to him. "Dude, what was that?" he asked, shaking his head in amazement. "You just, turned everything upside down." Noah exhaled. "Yeah." James bumped his shoulder. "So you gonna play again sometime?" Noah thought about it, about the feeling of the keys beneath his fingers, about the music filling the room. He smiled. "Yeah, I think I will." Because today he hadn't just played music, he had been heard. The following days brought subtle but noticeable changes. Mr. Harrison still conducted class with the same structured approach, but his interactions with Noah had shifted. He now acknowledged Noah's raised hand, maintained eye contact during discussions, and even paused longer after Noah's answers, as if truly considering his words. Other students viewed Noah differently too. At lunch, classmates who had never spoken to him before stopped by his table. "You were incredible on that piano," said Emily, sitting across from him. "How long have you been playing?" "Since I was 6, Noah replied. James shook his head. "Man, you've been holding out on us." Noah smiled. "I guess I have." Across the cafeteria, Mr. Harrison passed with a stack of music sheets in hand. Their eyes met briefly. This time, it was the teacher who looked away first. And Noah? He just kept eating, because he had already said everything he needed to say. Some lessons aren't taught from textbooks. Some moments change how people see the world, whether they want them to or not. Mr. Harrison had spent months looking past Noah, and in just a few minutes, Noah had ensured he would never do so again. Perhaps the teacher would never apologize. Perhaps he would never acknowledge what he had done, what he had assumed, but it didn't matter, because now Noah knew something that Mr. Harrison didn't. When people try to silence you, when they try to underestimate you, the best thing you can do is let your talent speak louder than their doubts. And when you do that, they have no choice but to listen. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that remind us to stand tall, no matter who's watching.